Hi, we're back again discussing the works of God. Today we're going to look at creation and evolution, the debate between them. Now, this is only going to be a very scant summary, and I have to confess up front that this is one of the least interesting areas of theology for me. I've never really gotten deeply involved in the debates between creation and evolution, so this video probably won't be extremely informative, and I won't go very deep into the debate. I hate to say I'm not interested, because I am, but for me, I don't understand all of creation. I don't understand the whole process. I don't understand the how, and it's hard for me to be incredibly dogmatic. Trust me, this isn't a cop-out. I understand that the debate is important. It's just not my debate. It's not the area that I'm passionate about. I'll try to recount the facts for you, but it probably will not really satisfy your appetite. Basically, in terms of today's debate, we have two poles. On one pole, there's the position of fiat creationism, that God created everything in 6 literal days, just as the Bible says when read literally. On the other pole, there is naturalistic evolution, the idea that matter has always been, and that through natural selection, life evolved from non-life, and then evolved on to what we see today, and will continue to do so beyond today. Those are the two poles of the debate. Now, of course, I hold closer to the pole of fiat creationism, because I'm not a naturalist. I believe that God created matter. I believe that He created matter out of nothing, out of Himself, and there is no real eternal past existence of matter. Now, whether He did that via a Big Bang or whatever, I don't know how He did it. But I do know that matter is not eternal. God is eternal. So the whole idea of Darwinistic, naturalistic evolution does hold that matter is eternal, contradicts the idea of ex nihilo creation. Again, on the other side is the idea of fiat creationism, that God created out of nothing, in 6 days created all that there is. Now, as I said, those are the polar positions. There are some positions in the middle. There is the idea of theistic evolution, that God superintends the evolutionary process, that evolution is a legitimate way of explaining how things came to be, but it is something that God Himself superintends. That's a difficult subject. And there are many nuances to theistic evolution, and again, I do not consider myself an expert in this debate. I'm only going to skim the surface of it for you. One of the things that I think is necessary to uphold, from a theological standpoint, the rest of what we believe as Christians, is for a special creation of Adam from the dust of the ground. Adam cannot have evolved if we are to hold a Christian viewpoint. There must be a literal creation of Adam, at least very similar to what Genesis tells us. Because if Adam is an evolutionary being, then we have the fall as an evolutionary event. And then we have the purposes of God's creation confused, and I suppose it could be possible, but I just don't see how it is. We really must have Adam as a real special creation of God. Another difficulty with this view is death. The Bible makes it very plain that death is a result of sin. And the reason that death is on this earth is because sin is on this earth. How does death figure in an evolutionary paradigm, even if it's a theistic evolutionary paradigm? because that would imply that death has been present for billions of years or millions of years or however long it is. But the Bible is pretty clear that death is a result of sin. Now, was there animal death before the fall? That's a good question. Some folks say absolutely not. Other folks say it has to be. To me, as a theologian, that's a good question. Is there death before the fall? If there is, then death really isn't a result of sin, and that creates a larger theological problem for us. One of the hardest things about this whole debate is that none of us are eyewitnesses and none of us were there. We're going by the evidence that we see, but it's so hard to see that evidence without the presuppositions that go along with it. And that's one of the reasons I think why this debate doesn't interest me so much. Because, as we said before, an atheist and a Christian can be standing on a balcony looking at a beautiful sunset. And the Christian could admire the beauty of the sunset and say, look what a beautiful world God created. And the atheist can stand and look at the same sunset and say, what a beautiful sunset. Isn't evolution wonderful? So, really, what we see or what we perceive by what we see is so dependent upon what we already believe. And I think that makes this discussion so much more difficult. And our lack of knowledge, lack of the understanding of the really what happened makes it much more difficult. Now, I'll lay my own cards on the table. I'm a young earth creationist. I believe that God created in 6 literal days, and that's that. But I could be wrong. I understand and respect the criticisms of those who would oppose me on that. Again, it's not a hill I'm ready to die on. What about the age of the earth? If you're a young earth creationist, the earth isn't that old. 10,000 years max. If you're an old earther, the earth is very, very old, billions of years old. There are ways that creationists have reconciled the age of the earth with the Genesis account, and one of those is called the gap theory. That between Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and Genesis 1:2, and the earth was without form and void, there's a large gap of time. A very, very large gap of time. I have issues with that too, because every one of these explanations has pros and cons. And they're all legitimate. So maybe we just need to come up with a better system. But here are some of the cons against the gap theory. Well, the pros, first of all, it would reconcile an old earth with the Genesis account. But the problems include, does the earth sit that long? Why let the earth sit for 4 billion years before you do anything with it? And how do you deal with Exodus 20:11 or Mark 10:5-8 that says 6 days God created the earth and everything on it? So, no easy way to reconcile these. And honestly, now's the time for me to get on my soapbox. But I won't be there long, I promise. That's an in-house debate. That's something that we need to talk about with the doors and windows closed and everybody in the living room. But when we go outside the house, when we go out into the public square, that does not need to be what we're talking about. We need to be talking about the fact that God did create and that He created for His purposes. And His creation is very good. And He is the God of matter and the Lord of matter and the creator of matter. Matter is not eternal. Those are the things we need to be proclaiming. Because if we're not proclaiming those, we are really letting our own in-house debate that we have amongst ourselves spill over into the outside world, and it gives the outside world a chance to come against us and to make our words of less profit than they should be. So I pray that when you formulate an idea of creation in your heart, that you are able to respect other Christians who have differing views. I think that's important. I think that I think it's important that you would be able to dialogue about it, that you'd be able to understand that whatever view you choose has some drawbacks to it. Nothing is perfect in this. We wish it would be, but the world's just not that simple. And so maybe we don't understand it completely. Because I want to tell you, the idea of 6 literal days of creation is not the original Christian view. I know that might really shock you, but in the days of the early church, the church fathers agreed that God created, but they did not take the 6 days to be always literal. They literally believed he created, but they did not literally believe it was 6 days. They had different rules of interpretation than we do. They saw things differently than we do, and they held open the very possibility that the earth could have been old, even though that wasn't a debate of their day. That didn't really become a debate until the scientific revolution of the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries. It wasn't really until the Protestant Reformation that 6 literal days became the explanation. So we have to have a good spoonful of humility with this too. We really need to be able to say, I don't really know how God created. I think this is how he created, and I have good reasons for believing this is how he created. But I don't know that we can dogmatically say this is beyond the shadow of a doubt how he created. The Bible sometimes can be a difficult book to accurately interpret. And I just want you to be able to be truly humble about this and say, I think this is correct, but I also see where other people who disagree with me get their facts. Now, I might be able to think that there are holes in those in their reasoning, but their reasoning's still pretty good. Know the log in our own eye, we can fix the speck in our brother's eye. That's pretty good words to live by. A wise man said that. I bet you know what his name was. Next time we'll talk about angels and demons as we move on beyond the concept of creation. We'll actually continue creation with angels and demons. Angels are fun, demons aren't. So we'll see you next time.